September 1957. Little Rock, Arkansas, facing a screaming mob as she tries to enter a newly desegregated high school. This image is iconic, but the story behind it, and the 9 students who lived it, is far deeper and more complex than most of us were taught in history class. This is the untold story of the Little Rock 9. To understand what happened, we need to rewind to 1954, the Supreme Court's landmark decision in Bron. This was a monumental victory for the civil rights movement. But a court ruling is one thing. Changing the hearts and minds of a society is another. The decision was met with what was called massive resistance across the South. Politicians and citizens alike pledged to defy the federal government's mandate. In Little Rock, the school board developed a plan for gradual integration. They weren't just chosen for their excellent grades. They were chosen for their character, their resilience, and their perceived ability to withstand the immense pressure that awaited them. These 9 teenagers were Minijin Brown, Elizabeth Eckford, Ernest Green, Thelma Mothershed, Melba Pattillo, Gloria Ray, Terrence Roberts, Jefferson Thomas, and Carlotta Walls. The plan was set, but on September 4th, the first day of school, Arkansas Governor Orval Faubus had other ideas. Citing concerns of public disorder, he deployed the Arkansas National Guard not to protect the students, but to block them from entering the school. The image of soldiers with bayonets turning away children became a national and international scandal. For nearly 3 weeks, the 9 students were prevented from attending school. They and their families faced relentless threats and intimidation. This is where Elizabeth Eckford's famous walk comes in. On that first day, she didn't get the message that the students were supposed to gather together and arrive as a group. So, she arrived alone. She walked, head held high, through a gauntlet of pure fury, eventually finding refuge on a bus bench until 2 white allies, a reporter and a woman named Grace Lork, came to her aid and helped her get to safety. The standoff between the state and federal government escalated. He couldn't allow a state governor to openly defy a federal court order. So, he did something unprecedented since Reconstruction. He federalized the entire Arkansas National Guard, taking them out of the governor's control, and sent in the 101st Airborne Division of the U.S. Army. Paratroopers, battle-hardened soldiers, were dispatched to Little Rock with a single mission: to escort 9 black teenagers to high school. The Little Rock 9 finally walked through the doors of Central High, surrounded by a military escort. But getting inside was only the first battle. What awaited them was a year of torment. Inside the school, there were no soldiers in the hallways, no cameras in the classrooms. The 9 were subjected to a daily barrage of physical and verbal abuse. Melba Pattillo Beals later wrote in her memoir, "Warriors Don't Cry," about the constant fear and isolation. She recalled one incident where a group of boys trapped her in a corner and started choking her, only to be saved by a fellow member of the 9. Minijin Brown was relentlessly taunted, until one day she snapped and dropped her bowl of chili on 2 boys who were harassing her. For this, she was suspended and later expelled. The school administration often turned a blind eye, or even punished the black students for reacting to their attackers. The mental and emotional toll was immense. Their parents lost their jobs, bricks were thrown through their windows, the Ku Klux Klan burned crosses on their lawns. The pressure was suffocating. Despite the daily hell, they persevered. In May 1958, Ernest Green became the first black student to graduate from Central High School. Martin Luther King Jr. attended his graduation. It was a symbolic victory, a powerful moment of triumph. But the story doesn't end there. Rather than continue with integration, Governor Faubus took an extreme step. He shut down all of Little Rock's public high schools for the entire 1958-1959 school year. This period became known as the Lost Year. The city's white students were forced into private schools or had to move, while the black students were left with virtually no options. It took another Supreme Court ruling in 1959 to force the schools to reopen and continue with desegregation. But the scars from that year ran deep. They became journalists, social workers, accountants, professors, and federal officials. They carried the weight of their experience, but they refused to be defined solely by it. They became powerful advocates for civil rights and education, speaking to new generations about their ordeal and the importance of standing up against injustice. The story of the Little Rock Nine is often simplified to a single moment, a single photograph. But it was a year-long siege. It was a story of incredible bravery from 9 young people who faced down a hateful mob, a defiant governor, and an indifferent school administration. It's a story of federal power clashing with states' rights, and it's a story of the deep, painful, and often hidden costs of progress. Their sacrifice paved the way for thousands of other students. It forced a nation to confront the ugliness of its own prejudice and underscored the immense courage required to demand the rights that are promised to all citizens. The next time you see that photo of Elizabeth Eckford, remember the 8 others who stood with her. And remember the year of terror they endured inside the school walls. Their story is a crucial part of our history, and it's one that deserves to be told in its entirety. Thanks for watching. If you found this story powerful, please like, subscribe, and share it with others. Let's make sure these histories are never forgotten. See you next time.